officials from the Ministry of Tourism Minister Robert Tong, Senator Tong is around, the PS, Colin Piper, Tourism Director, I see Don Correa, the Disaster Management Coordinator, the weather forecasters in Dominica, who have really been featuring of late here in Dominica. Melvin Paul, the head of the GS, who's sitting here at the head table. So it's time to get across to the Prime Minister of Dominica for another very important press briefing. Over now to Prime Minister Roosevelt Scale.
Thank you. And let me say good evening to the viewing and listening public and all of you both here and out to Dominica. Also, let me recognize the presence of Honorable Robbie Town. We have also the Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Mr. Gerald Jean-Jacques, and Mr. Colin Piper, the Director of Discover Dominica Authority, Mr. Don Correa, the Coordinator of the ODM, and the folks from the Met Office, Mr. Pascal and Mr. Alexander. Let me greet the media who have been here every night covering this since Thursday evening. Tonight we'll be speaking, and of course the Ministry of Tourism will present to the country a number of matters relating to tourism and our readiness to receive tourists and visitors to our country. And we'll speak to a number of different aspects of the tourism industry. The Minister will have Mr. Colin Piper do a presentation, and also the Permanent Secretary, and then the Minister for Tourism himself will do a presentation. We'll also focus tonight on the impending weather. As you know, a flood warning has been issued. That is in effect now, and it will be in effect, as I've been advised, till 12 noon tomorrow Friday. And so this is one of the reasons why we at short notice put the press briefing to 6 instead of 7, as we want people to. I would like to get home myself, so, and I'm hoping that everybody will get home and take precautionary measures. I just want to speak briefly before I pass on to the Ministry of Tourism about the efforts at the Douglas Chelsea Airport. As you know, the airport was severely battered by Tropical Storm Erika. The terminal building suffered complete damage in terms of all of the equipment and the furniture and fixtures, all of which will have to be replaced in the next weeks and months ahead. But tremendous work has been done in respect to a number of aspects at the airport. The first objective of the government at the time after the storm was to have the runway cleared of all debris, and also to clear the terminal building, because the objective was to get the airport operational as soon as practically possible. And a number of assets were deployed to the airport and to ensure that focused attention was given to the airport, because one understands the importance of the Douglas Chelsea Airport to our country, and it being closed, it will create major challenges for us. So the objective was to do everything possible and in quick time to get the airport operational. What has happened up as of tonight is that we have gotten clearance from the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority for the Liat planes to land in Dominica. So earlier this week we had gotten approval for the ATR 42 to land. As of this morning, Erika gave its all clear for the ATR 72 to land at the Douglas Chelsea Airport. And prior to that, we also gotten approval for Win Air and Seaborne to land in Dominica. Both the CEO of Liat, Mr. Evans, and also the Director General of the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, and a contingent from that authority, and also the chief pilot of LIAT and all the senior staff of LIAT were all at the airport doing their own independent assessment and investigation and viewing, and both are satisfied that the Douglas Chelsea Airport is at a state where commercial flights can be channeled through or into Douglas Chelsea. So the CEO of LIAT has said to me, and he said to the government, that LIAT will restore services to Douglas Charles Airport as early as Monday, but no later than Tuesday they will commence operation. Obviously, they'll have to take a couple of days to put the scheduling in the system and so forth. We have pressed him to see whether they could have a stop tomorrow. So he said he will speak to his folks and see whether it can be a stop in Dominica tomorrow. At least a trial run with passengers, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. But I want to say publicly and to thank publicly the chairman, the board, and the CEO and the entire staff of the LIAT, the pilots, the operation staff of LIAT, and really led by the CEO, Mr. Evans, in their extraordinary assistance to Dominica during that time. LIAT has been exceptional. We always criticize LIAT. We say all sorts of manner of evils about LIAT, but LIAT has demonstrated its true friendship, its true solidarity, its true interest in Dominica. And I think it would be remiss of me as the leader of the country not to publicly recognize the efforts of LIAT. I mean, they have been with us from day one, being very facilitative, being there and offering assistance, and we really want to say thanks to LIAT. And the fact that the CEO and the chief pilots were here this morning is an indication of the seriousness in which the CEO and LIAT itself took in our time of challenge or time of adversity. And LIAT has been in touch with me directly, of course, and also with the Ministry of Tourism almost on a daily basis, following up on developments and providing us with support. So I want to say publicly our thanks to LIAT in that. I also want to publicly recognize the efforts of Erika, which is the independent authority, the authority that deals with all aviation matters within the OECS. The leadership of Erika, from the Director General, and his entire staff, several senior members of the staff who have been in Dominica more than once. They were there this morning inspecting, looking to see whether the conditions which they place on us, we have been able to meet them, and they have indicated that Dominica at the Douglas Chelsea Airport has met all of the conditions which they set on us in order to get certification for the ATR 72 to land at the Douglas Chelsea Airport. So I really want to say thank you to Erika and his staff for their extraordinary support during this difficult time. Also, I want to publicly recognize the efforts of Mr. Bino Badwell and Dayton Baptist, and many others, but I want to single out these two who have been exceptional. Dayton Baptist, though not a member of staff of DASPA, because of the fact that he lives in Marigot, from the Thursday he has commanded a number of activities at the Douglas Chelsea Airport, and as of, up to today he's been working non-stop 24/7, and I really want to recognize his extraordinary efforts. And of course Mr. Badwell, who has been was deployed to Douglas Chelsea Airport, has been there overseeing all aspects of the operations. And the truth is, his leadership was very important at the Douglas Chelsea Airport physically to take over the responsibilities there, and he has done a fantastic job. And of course, people like Jean Williams and Mr. Morvan and all the people who've worked there. George Nanton, who was one of the first people on site with his heavy equipment, assisting with clearing. and all the aspects of clearing the airport. And also a very large contingent from the regional council of Guadeloupe in a show and manifestation of true solidarity. The regional council of Guadeloupe sent in a large contingent of volunteers with equipment also, and they have been really exceptional, really diligent, and really demonstrated the kind of urgency, the kind of commitment, and a strong sense of love and affection to the Dominican people in a manner in which they carried out their functions and responsibilities. You know, I could say boldly, had it not been for the assistance of the French Regional Council of Guadeloupe, we would not have been able to get clearance from ECHA to have the ATR 42 or the ATR 72 to land. They've been very exceptional because, as you know, we were constrained by the fact that we have limited heavy equipment in the country, because every piece of heavy equipment has been deployed to one village or one community or one site or the other. And the type of equipment you needed at the Douglas Chelsea Airport, we had limited capacities. And even those that would be available, they were cut off from the rest of the country, couldn't get to Douglas Charles. The French came in here and they did an assessment and together with our officials or technical people determined the type of equipment that would have been needed. Went back to Guadeloupe on a matter of less than 48 hours. They were at Douglas Charles working non-stop from 6 to 6 every single day. So I really want to thank them. Also, we have some Cuban electrical engineers at the airport. They've been there for more than a week now, reviewing all the electrical connections, with the wirings, and to see where it has been compromised and where it been compromised, to advise on what needs to be done. They've been exceptional. They've been there with us, and we just got from Grenada an electrical engineer who is based at the Maurice Bishop International Airport. He has been sent here because he's very familiar with the electrical connections at the airport, especially the lighting on the runway, and he will be checking everything and ensuring that the system is in place and what needs to be done to get lights on the runway and also in the terminal building and other aspects of the operations of the airport. So a lot of work has been done at the airport. Clearly, there's much more work to be done. A lot more work to be done there. We have to reconstruct, reinstate a large section of the apron. We have to reinstate the road towards the sea and the sea defense wall. We have to reinstate the collapse wall at the top of the airport. We have to refence the entire airport, of 6,000 feet of fencing. We have to procure and install all of the furniture, all of the navigational equipment at the Douglas Chelsea Airport. There's some additional work. So there's still extensive work. I heard people say, well, if you guys said the airport was so bad, how come it's landing? Prince will be landing because of extraordinary efforts on the part of the people of Dominica. Extraordinary. For a small country, limited capacity, I think we need to recognize that exceptional work has been done to get the airport functional and to pass the test from the independent aviation authority. I also want to place on public record the facilitation done by the Prefect of Martinique and Guadeloupe to allow Dominicans to in transit in Guadeloupe and Martinique with very little or no hassle, by allowing them by waiving the requirements for entry into those two French departments. And I've been told by Liat since the storm they were able to put through Guadeloupe over 2,000 people, passengers coming in and out of Dominica. So that was significant. And without Leah agreeing to fly into Guadeloupe specifically to drop off our passengers, then we for 2,000 people would not have gotten into the country or out of the country. So we really want to thank the French the government of the French Republic, but more specifically the Préfet of Martinique and the Préfet of Guadeloupe. I think that in a nutshell, I'm hoping as the Minister of Finance, once I can be advised by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Public on the specific actions which we need to take at the Douglas Chelsea Airport to bring us to the state where we were prior to August 27. I'm hoping that I have demanded that I am in a position to sign a contract for the airport operations. So I am actually waiting for me to be advised, and I have said to them publicly and privately that the reinstatement of Douglas Chelsea Airport is top priority, or one of the top priorities for the government, and I'm looking forward to signing a contract pretty soon, so we can reinstate the apron and procure the navigational equipment for the terminal building and also the furniture that's required. Obviously, the airport will be open. There'll be inconveniences because a lot of things have to be done manually, but we'll try to minimize the inconveniences to passengers. So I'm hoping that all of us can understand these are not normal times, but we are pressing on, and as time goes by, we will certainly improve the conditions and the services at the Douglas Chelsea Airport. I will end here with this report from the Douglas Charles, and of course the Minister of Tourism will add anything that he thinks I may have left out in that report from the Douglas Charles. At some other time I will speak to my visits to other parts of the country, Bells and the north and northeast and my constituency at some other time, but because of the situation of the weather, I will pass on to tourism so that we can hear from Fitzroy Pascal and our friends from the Met Office, and then you, the press, as always, will have opportunity to ask questions. I will allow the speaker to introduce his successor, and I will take it from there. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. Thank you, PM, Minister, PS, all of this here, media. My report is essentially just to provide additional information on access other than what the Prime Minister has provided on Douglas Charles. So in terms of ports of entry, all seaports remain functional and open. That is Woodbridge Bay, Roseau Cruise Ship Berth, the ferry terminal, and the two ports in Portsmouth, that at the Longhouse area, and Cabritz. Obviously, Canefield Airport is operational, servicing helicopters and smaller aircraft. In terms of sea and air services, obviously, L'Express des Îles, the ferry service which brings in passengers from the islands of Guadeloupe, Martinique, and St. Lucia, currently running. We had a Carib Sun, which was a ferry originally from Montserrat, come in and provide two return trips between Antigua and Dominica that occurred on September 1 and September 8 in order to bring people from Antigua into Dominica and back out from Dominica to Antigua. In terms of the Canefield Airport, as we mentioned, it's operational for helicopter and small aircraft. So you have Winair, which is providing return flights to Canefield from St. Martin. That's happening 5 times a week, and that schedule is in place until October 25th. You have Caribbean Helicopters, which is providing daily fixed-wing service between Antigua and Dominica at Canefield. That is 3 times per day, with the exception of Friday and Sunday when they provide 2 flights. You have Hummingbird Air, which is offering charters from Canefield into St. Martin with onward connection to Tortola, as well as to St. Thomas and St. Croix. And as the Prime Minister mentioned, Liat added up to 29 flights going into Guadeloupe, and Seaborne Airlines also rescheduled flights until the 15th of September into Guadeloupe. Both of these airlines acted to facilitate travel into and out of the French West Indies, into and out of Dominica via the French West Indies, using the ferry service. And just to bring it down just a little bit, if you're returning to Dominica via Antigua, your option is Caribbean helicopters 3 times daily, except Friday and Sunday. If you're coming into Dominica via St. Martin currently, you have Winair operating 5 times per week, except Thursday and Saturday, and you have Hummingbird Air on Monday and Fridays. If you're coming in via Guadeloupe, on the ferry, that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. If you're coming in via Martinique on the ferry, that's Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you're coming in via St. Lucia on the ferry, that is Thursday and Sunday. And if you're coming in via St. Thomas or St. Croix on Hummingbird Air, that is every day except Wednesday and Saturday. If you're going out of Dominica via Antigua, Caribbean helicopters, again 3 times daily except Friday and Sunday when they fly 2 times. If you're going out via St. Martin, you have Winair 5 times weekly except Thursday and Saturday, Hummingbird Air on Monday and Wednesday. If you're going out via Express to Guadeloupe, you can travel out on Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Via Martinique on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. St. Lucia on the ferry, travel out on Wednesday and Friday. And if you're going into St. Thomas or St. Croix, currently every day except Wednesday and Saturday. So we will continue to provide daily access updates, which can be found on the Discover Dominica site, as well as we'll make it available to others. And we will be monitoring how soon the commercial flights can go into Douglas Charles so that we can keep you updated. Okay? Thanks so much.
Good evening, Mr. PM and Mr. Minister, Mr. Piper, media. My task is pretty simple. I'm to inform you of the accessibility and the operational level of the sites. Mr. Piper has spoken to you about access into Dominica. I would also want to brief you on access to the sites, and then we'll speak about the sites. At 4:30 this afternoon, Public Works informed that all roads across the island, except in 5 areas, 5 critical areas, are largely passable. These 5 areas are Bagatelle to Petit Savane to Delices, Wichita to Delices, Wet Area Village, that's towards the interior, Warner to Layu via Sultan Road. In these 5 areas, none of our major sites and attractions are largely and adversely affected. And that brings me now to the next point, what I want to talk to you about, that is the access to those sites. There are about 45 sites and attractions that the ministry has documented has some interest to visitors to the island. Out of these 45, there are about 7 that are considered top sites by the tourist, by the Dominica, by the DHTA, and the Forestry Division. They have recorded that these sites attract a larger number of visitors. These sites are Trafalgar Falls, Emerald Pool, the Champagne Reef, Tito Gorge, Indian River, an adventure park down in Layu, and Bois Cotlet up in the Soufrière area. Out of these, we have complete access to 4 of them. What does that mean? That means with your vehicle, you could drive up to Trafalgar Falls, you could drive to Emerald Pool, normally you would access Champagne Reef via boat. You could still do that and enjoy the reef. Tito Gorge, you can drive to Tito Gorge. Indian River, we have been informed and we have observed that you could still take a boat and go to the Indian River and enjoy the Indian River. As a matter of fact, the falls, Emerald Pool and Tito Gorge have been enhanced. They are much more beautiful right now. There are, I should say, admit, 1 or 2 limitations notably in one little portion of the road to Trafalgar Falls. But that doesn't hinder traffic. My team and I went there yesterday, I think we did. Persons have been going through this road very easily. With regards to the two other areas, the road has been severely impacted by landslides. Well, one area, but that we have been assured that area should be prepared by the time the season starts October 5. With regards to the Lai Valley, I did indicate to you that while we have been advised that 102 Lai via Sultan Road has been impacted heavily by the overflowing water, one attraction down the Lai in the Hillsborough area has been impacted, but there are already plans afoot to advance access via an alternate road. So all this to say that notwithstanding the ravages that have been visited upon us by the tropical storm Erika, the key sites that have been visited by our guests remain very accessible and are enhanced in many ways. Many persons have been wondering about the National Trail, Waitikuli National Trail, as well as Boyden Lake. The word we have is that the Boyden Lake is still accessible. There are about two or three slides. You would access the Boyden Lake. You could still access the Boyden Lake. However, it is not advisable that if it's raining heavily that you would venture, because the slides, you would have to walk over the slides, cross the slides. It is doable, but it is still a little risky. So that has elevated a bit, if you will, the level of challenge involved in reaching the lake. The National Trail, this is a challenge. Of course, you would appreciate it takes 8 days to collect data, 8 days to walk the trail. We are in discussion with some of our partners to walk the length of the trail and give us a comprehensive report. But we can already report that segment 5, there's damaged bridge, which does not hinder passage. Because if you know the persons who know the segment 5, you would notice that there's a bridge, but in any case, persons were already bypassing the bridge to walk in the cool stream now and then. Okay, so that area, damaged bridge, but we'll get a comprehensive report on the WNT in the next week or so. So generally, persons, we are happy to say that although we have had some knocking here and there by the storm, we are pretty much intact and ready for business with regards to access to the sites. Okay, I'll now pass on to the Honorable Minister.
Good evening, Prime Minister, Honorable Colonel McIntyre, PS Jajak, Mr. Colin Piper, members of the media, the public. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to address you and to give an update as to where we are. As you've known, the country of Dominica, in terms of the tourism, it seems that we are in a position to accept our visitors to our beautiful island. Whilst we mourn the loss of the death of families and those who are missing, and those who've also been impacted by the loss of their private properties, we sympathize with you. Properties can be replaced, but lives cannot be replaced, and we hope that you can think of the fond memories that you've had with your family members and ensure that you remember those and go through these hard times. We're also hoping that everybody can work together with each other. There's a lot of challenges. We have to be there for each other. And what we have seen so far, that everybody has been able to really be there for each other and to keep each other calm in this tough times. Dominicans we are resilient people. We've gone through this before. In 1979, we had Hurricane David, which was similarly worse than this, where a lot more got impacted. And I feel that based on our challenges, we will continue to move forward in the best interest of our country. Much of our infrastructure has been damaged, but as a team, as you can see, we've all worked smart. I mean, many of you would have seen the images of Douglas Charles. And I mean, for the average person going down there, when you looked at it, some persons would have realized how would they wouldn't even know where to start. But based on the images that we have seen, we as Dominicans have done an amazing job with the help of the French and the Venezuelans really move it forward. And as the Prime Minister said, hopefully by Monday or Tuesday, you should have commercial flights coming in. Those of you who have seen the various pictures, the airport actually is being used at this point in time to bring in additional luggage, to bring in even what do you call it, private jets coming into the airport. So it is usable. We just have to make sure all the necessary features are in place. Again, in the interest of time and the issue of the rains that we expect, we also have a video. So the Ministry of Tourism has also gone to all the respective sites to ensure that they are in a state of readiness, and also to all the respective hotels. Today we had a meeting with all the stakeholders to see exactly where we're all at in terms of us moving forward. We have a video, but I don't think we'll have enough time to show the video now. But those of you who can go onto the PM's page, we'll have a copy of it here on this Cover Dominica website, which basically shows most of the sites as of now, and that we are ready to accept visitors to our shows to experience the beautiful features that we have. As the PM said, there's so many people to thank for. There's so many people to thank for the different things they've done. Express the Zeal for putting on and ensuring that persons can get onto the boats. Foreign Affairs for making sure they spoke with the French authorities to waive the visas. The government of Montserrat for having the 2 additional ferries to ensure that persons can come into Dominica. Because as you know, if you're stuck out there, most of us go on vacations. We have a set budget. Once that budget is over, our funds are very low and we need to get our people in. So one of our responsibilities was to ensure that persons could come into the country and persons could actually leave the country. And so far, that has worked very well. HHV with Church, they have waived many fees to ensure that persons can come in, especially for the ferry, but also to all the Dominicans who have really worked hard to put things in place to get the country where it is. We have a lot more work to do. There's a lot more expenses. There's a lot more expenses to bear, and we look forward to as many donations as possible. With regards to accommodation, that is one of the concerns many have talked about. So pre-Erika, there were 94 properties, which equates to 1,022 rooms. Post-Erika, there are 72 fully operational properties, which means that over 76% of our properties are ready and willing to accept persons. And 10 are non-operational, but of which 9 of these are expected to be fully operational before the peak season, and the peak season is really between the months of October and to November moving forward. By the peak season, we'll have 81 properties that will be fully operational, and we've been working very closely with DHD to ensure that we receive information on a regular basis to see what are the issues of the hotels and how we move forward in the best interests of the country. So we implore on persons to share the video that they will find on the Discover Dominica site, which shows that Dominica is ready to accept business, because as we know, tourism is second to agriculture, and we have to ensure that we bring in some form of revenue into the country. We also employ on persons to ensure that we use our local produce in terms of our poultry, our pork, to ensure that the local agricultural sector benefits from the effects of tourism. So I just want to say thank you very much for being here, and Dominica, in terms of the tourism sector, is ready to begin to accept persons into the country, and let us see how we can move forward, support each other, try to put the most positive messages out there, because there's a lot of negative messages going out, but we really have to be there for each other and for the country. Thank you very much.
Good evening to all. Good evening to the Honorable Prime Minister, Ministers of Government, colleagues, the media, listeners and viewers. A news release was sent to various media houses and decision makers sometime after 4 this afternoon. It read, a flood warning is in effect for Dominica until 12 noon tomorrow, Friday, September 11th, 2015. It was issued at 5 p.m. today. A flood warning means that flooding is already occurring or will occur during the warning period. The remnants of Tropical Storm Grace, which is now a tropical wave, are expected to move across Dominica tonight and early tomorrow, Friday. This system will spread cloudy to overcast skies, pockets of moderate to heavy showers, periods of rain, scattered thunderstorms, and occasional gusty winds over the island. Rainfall accumulations of 1 to 3 inches are possible with isolated higher amounts. Due to the already saturated nature of the soil, any additional rainfall is likely to result in further flooding and landslides. Hence, residents in flood-prone areas are urged to take all necessary precautions to protect life and property. This warning may be further extended should conditions become necessary. And then additionally, a wetter period is expected Monday into Tuesday with additional rainfall expected. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all the presenters, and thank you very much. We will now open up for any questions from the media, please.
Yes. Yes, sir. You ready for a question from me, sir?
Sure.
Let me ask the Minister, Senator Robert Tom. Could you just get to the mic for us, please, Mr. Tom? Yeah, Mr. Tom, your opening statement, Dominica is not ready to accept visitors. Does that mean we are ready to stage the World Creole Music Festival?
Okay.
Dominica is ready to accept visitors. Are you saying, in essence, we are ready for the staging of this year's World Creole Music Festival?
With regards to the World Creole Music Festival, we are still in discussions at this point, and we should be having meetings with the private sector tomorrow to see how best we can move forward.
Right, so what you're saying that a decision has not been taken up to this point to stage the festival. What are some of the issues at hand at this moment in saying yes to this answer? What are some of the issues?
What are some of the issues? Curtis, obviously, there are many issues. One of the major issues would be that you have serious loss of property. You have serious loss of persons' individual homes. You have serious loss to the hotel stock. And you all know that during that time, hotels are overbooked and people stay at many people's homes. So as you can see, there are many challenges that you have to ensure that are properly in place. You have family members who have not been able to identify or even find the bodies of their loved ones. And traditionally, the whole feel of the World Creole Music Festival is one of revelry and fete. So one has to really look at these things very properly before you can make a proper decision.
So is this more a no, Mr. Tom, than a yes to the World Creole Music Festival?
I can't answer that question right now, but I'm sure by
You
the end of...
You have actually stated a number of the challenges that the country faces. And I will say that Madpelty is not in favor of the World Creole Music Festival. So I'm being straight here. I'm saying,
Let's just say, but tomorrow, no later than 1 o'clock, statement will be issued on the hosting of the Creole Festival.
PM, are you for the World Creole Music Festival?
I mean,
Yes, please.
the government has a challenge. The country has a challenge. The country has been affected in a serious way by a tropical storm. Now, in driving across the country, I have been to virtually every country. The only places I have to go to is in Good Hope, and I'll do so before Monday. In every community I've driven, there is something that has to be done. You know, with respect to infrastructure. I'm talking solely about public infrastructure. And the cost is going to be huge. And therefore, any access the government has to money, whether it is locally generated or otherwise, it has to use that money in the priority areas. And therefore, any cost, for example, as the Minister of Finance, I've already taken decisions to cut a number of activities which the government normally engages in that cost money. Because I have to calculate in my mind how much money I need to raise as the Minister of Finance to build homes for people who've been affected, to restore all these bridges, river defense walls. The roads on the West Coast has serious damage on the West Coast, several sections, and the Nicholas Liverpool Highway there are several sections that have been badly beaten. So we have to understand that anything that's going to have a cost are being put on the table, and based on advice, based on a review, based on analysis, a rational decision will be taken on those things. So a number of cancellation of activities by the state, which nobody gets involved in, have been set aside. In respect to the Creole Festival, the minister, what is customary, is engaging all stakeholders. But I believe, I would dare say, from the way I see things, it is moving more towards a cancellation for 2015 than hosting the Creole Festival. And the final decision will be announced by the Minister of Tourism no later than 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Yeah.
So what would happen? As you said, discussions or decision will be taken by tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that means all the deposits that have been paid, all of this will be considered.
Well, the organizers of the event have been engaging those persons who have been contracted and contract signed. And our hope is that once a final determination is made on the hosting, then those who have been contracted will be engaged, and discussions and understanding, we expect, hopefully will be understood in the circumstances. What we are seeking to do is to say those who have been contracted, to have them, if the final decision, from my standpoint, I've made up my mind. The Ministry of Tourism have allowed to engage the stakeholders, to engage those who've been contracted, to see whether one, they would return the deposit, and secondly, to defer, in some cases, the performance to next year. I understand some people will have different views about whatever decision the state takes, but at the end of the day, our people have to be practical. We have to be real, and we preempted in my budget address, keeping it real. We have to be real. The country is going to need to raise a lot of money, and this is not about. We have to look at the situation as a whole. I cannot go and start apportioning things. We have to put everything on the table, consider all of the issues, all of the ramifications, because if we go ahead, for example, and host this Creole Festival, and people who have taken the money that they don't have to help you in this very difficult time, what are they going to say? That you fetting in Dominica while our people catching hell, and and man whining on woman with a beer, kubudi beer in each hand, and we have to build homes for you? I mean, we have to rewrite a number of things that are on the table. For example, the Mexican government, and I'll say so publicly, the Mexican government had already approved $5 million for the construction of the indoor facility at Stock Farm. The government has already taken a decision to divert that $5 million to construct homes for the people of Petite Savannah, without blinking of an eye, because the priorities have changed. You have a blank slate now with a number of issues that you now have to prioritize. So we have to be practical, and I know people will have different interests, people have different views, people will have different determinations and so forth. All of us have the right to do so. But at the end of the day, let us understand that this is going to be a marathon. Monies are not as accessible because every country in the world is going through a problem since 2008. And if you look at the world's economy, there is a second recession taking place, where countries have had to review and revise their growth rates. So let us understand that it's going to be a difficult period going forward. It's going to be a long process to rebuild this country's infrastructure. I mean, infrastructure we spent money just recently, tens of millions of dollars have gone away, washed away by rain. So let's understand that we have to look at this broad picture. And people have to appreciate from the vantage point where the government sits. Because ultimately, we have to go and raise the money for the country to deal with the issues. So, think we have to change and decide what the priorities are, and what are the things you're going to be distracted by. in your efforts, because already the state has limited capacity. We have to ensure that the limited capacity that we have, we allocate those resources to the critical things. You know, for example, I'll tell you, for example, I have taken a decision to assign to redeploy a permanent secretary to oversee specifically the relocation of people. Remove him from his permanent secretary portfolio responsibilities, and assign him specifically to oversee all matters relating to the resettlement of residents. Because it's a major undertaking. It's not about building apartments. It's not about building what do you call them? Building homes, and you look for people to come in. You have people who need homes now, and you have to move quickly to build those homes for these people. And it's going to be a costly exercise. Put in the infrastructure, and depends on where you get the land, whether it's government land or private land, you have to acquire it. So there are a number of factors we have to consider, and going forward, you know, we're looking at everywhere the government is spending, and if spending is not important, then we cut it off. Yeah.
I don't want to dwell too much on the Queer Festival, but I was just thinking, you know, wouldn't it be prudent enough that maybe you would speak with the various stakeholders and see how best you can have some sort of concert, fundraising concert in, you know, the aftermath of Tropical Storm Erika. You've already given them their 50% deposit, and see how best you could speak with those individuals, bring them in and see how best, you know. I'm just thinking of that's just a thought.
No. I mean, the thought is, is not wrongly placed. I mean, the point is, every conceivable point for consideration was considered. Every single one. And the Ministry of Tourism and Ministry of Tourism has had extensive consultations with a wide cross-section of people. We have consulted people within the country, outside of the country, you know, independently of each other. So we have consulted a wide cross-section, and the point that you raised is a valid point, and that was considered too. But any action you're going to take, anything you're going to be doing, you will have to put monies to it. You understand? You will put monies to it. And I'm thinking, boy, if I have $80,000, that's a house. If I have $100,000, that's a piece of wall that I will save a community. That's what I'm thinking. You know, I have a running calculator in my mind. Every time I pass them, I try to figure out how much money it's going to cost. So understand my headache.
I want to ask the other question though. You spoke about the situation, housing reallocation, allocation, etc. Have you spoken to, say, the banks, the credit unions? I know from, say, the credit union standpoint, I know I've listened to various messages from the National Credit Union, and they have taken a certain position. But in terms of the banking sector, have you been able to speak with them to see how best they can assist those who have been severely affected, etc.?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, events must move people. It shouldn't take a government or a prime minister to call you to tell you, look, I mean, this country has been affected, a man's home has been washed away, he has a mortgage with you, that you should see how you can help the man. Likewise, an insurance company. Insurance companies, I mean, a man has been good to you for 25 years. He's paying his premium to you. You know, he has brought more customers to you. He has all his property assets with you. I mean, an act of nature has befallen him. It shouldn't take a prime minister to call you to say, look, you know, help these people out. People have to be moved by themselves. What the government housing board has done, without even consulting the Minister of Finance, and I'm finding that in the circumstances, is that they have taken a decision to freeze the payments for, in the first instance of 3 months, for everybody who's been affected with a loan from the government housing board. That's the state. You understand? We have had, for example, one insurance company has come forward and said, look, you know, this facilities is insured by us. We prepare to set aside the usual insurance considerations. I mean, Dominica needs the exceptional help, and we are prepared to provide the exceptional help. So I hear people talking about, whether the Prime Minister has spoken to these people or that or these people. In a circumstance like this, you don't have somebody to call you. If somebody's house is burning, the person trying to call you and say, can you bring a bucket of water? I mean, you raise the hose, raise the bucket, let's go. Call, and we rush to help the person. If the person has to come to you, please, Carla, can you come and help me, please? And Martha, you see Martha is black hair, very black hair, so on his head and so on. To come and help us. I mean, you move. But what we have done, what we've been doing, is that we have in fact been speaking with some of those institutions.
Did I ask you?
Yeah, we've been in fact speaking to them, to say, look, but at the end of the day, I cannot impose on them. All I can do is to urge and beseech. So the Bible says, ask and you will receive. So I'm asking, and knock and the door shall be open. So I'm knocking the doors. My hope is that they will understand the biblical admonition and open the door to those who've been affected.
The credit union is the Commons Bank. The credit union has already taken a position
That's right.
on that. In terms of the banking sector, who seems to be hardline.
Well, I mean, as I said, it's a matter for each of those institutions to cause their conscience to lead them, and to guide them in how they treat with people who've been affected. Is what I'm saying, and to respond. But we've been speaking to them one-on-one, and our hope is that some kind of announcement can be made very soon in respect to those admonitions and so on.
With respect to the weather conditions, earlier this week Mr. Dominica said that evacuations might be necessary. The Met Office now has warned that those in areas prone to flooding should evacuate. So have you taken a decision to evacuate these persons?
Yeah, please.
Good night to everyone. Good night to Honorable Prime Minister. In fact, we followed up this statement by encouraging persons in low-lying areas and prone to flooding, especially those in especially declared disaster areas, that they should take preemptive action and to evacuate the areas that have been impacted. So we did follow up with the, after the statement was made by the Met Office. Unfortunately, I called Kyrie and Q. I didn't get them live, but I got DBS live. So after this press briefing, I will go live. Vibes, okay, I'll call Vibes, no problem.
What did you get live? You said it again.
That's a goodies, that's a goodies.
You said it again, this one?
I got to go on live on DBS.
All right. I didn't hear that the first time. Prime Minister, could I ask a question, please? Could you just get to the microphone? Yeah, Prime Minister, the independence celebration comes with a certain level of cost. Could that be affected this year?
As I said, any activity which a state is involved in, which require funds from the Treasury, is been rationalized by the Minister of Finance, and action will be taken because spending must be against priorities. So anything that will not fall within the priority of the state, now I'm not talking about things like salaries and those things. These are things that you must pay people with salaries and so forth. But the state priorities have shifted, and what a dollar used to do for you 3 years ago, it now has to do 5 times now. And so that's how I see it. And so there are a number of components of the independence celebration which will be impacted as a result of this storm. And as time goes by, we'll inform you, as we've been informing you on all issues in a very transparent manner. you know, this you've never had so much access to the government, you know, in all a lifetime. But you know, so as time goes by, excuse me. So we move from a monthly press conference to a nightly press conference, you know. But as time goes by, you know, because it is still a fluid and evolving process. You know, we have to be engaged in different groups, different organizations every single day. So at the appropriate time, the appropriate ministry will issue a statement in respect to the various components of the independence celebrations and other things which will be impacted upon. And as we indicated, the minister, before tomorrow, 1 o'clock, a statement will be issued on the Creole Festival. So, but as time goes by, we'll inform you on this. Yes.
Prime Minister, let me just ask a question quickly. That was my last question. In journalism, they say the story is in your eyes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are you exhausted? Are you burnt out?
No, I'm not exhausted. You know, I haven't burnt out. Luckily, I'm young, so you know that's my favor.
Younger than that?
A bit younger than him and so on. You know, but it's you know, it's been very long days and long nights. You know, trying to split my time in, because I'm coordinating a number of activities in state's response, engaging the regional international communities, the financial institutions, international financial institutions, and also visiting as many communities as possible. You know, I'm trying to balance all those things at the same time. It's difficult work, very demanding work on every aspect of your being. But the motivation comes from, you know, the unity of the country and the brotherly and sisterly love that has been displayed, and also the fraternal and brotherly and sisterly expression of solidarity with Dominica by so many people and so many individuals and so many organizations and so many countries. You know, it has been exceptional. But you know, when the going gets rough, you know, you have to get going. You can't give up, and that's where you have to redouble your commitment. So my commitment to this country has been quadrupled. It's going to be difficult, it's going to be a long process, but with the help of God and the help of the citizens of Dominica, and understanding that we all have to work together, that this storm did not only affect me, it affected every single one of us. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? You know, and it's important for us to remain focused on the task ahead. But I'm not in any way exhausted. I mean, I have been to difficult places, walking and so forth, and I'm not sure many of you in the room would have been able to make it. But moving Paul, I don't think moving Paul could have made it. You know, so it is. I'm not exhausted and so forth. I you know. No, I'm not.
Yeah, the unity that we now see between you and the opposition post Erika, will we see a lot more than this after?
Well, my hope is that it will last forever. That's my hope, that the unity will last forever. I have been very sincere with my engagement of the opposition. I have supported them in every single request that they have made of me as the Prime Minister in the execution of their duties. We have been transparent to them. They have been, the public officers who are responsible for various aspects of the operations have been subjected to the quizzing and the questioning. So there is not much information which I have, which any one of them do not have, in terms of the operations of the response of the state. So it has been sincere. You know, so my hope and prayer is that we can remain that way to the benefit of our country.
Because a lot of your critics are already suggesting this is PM Skerrit at his best, politicking.
Yes. You know, I can't respond to that. I mean, the point is, politicking has its place, and when you see the extent of the destruction, you have to engage everybody. And my thinking was that people elected 21 people to represent their interests, and that they all must be engaged in the efforts to respond to the effects and impact of Tropical Storm Erika. So it's not politicking for me. I mean, my task is too huge for me to spend time engaging in partisan politics. You know, I don't have the time to think about this. I have not convened a meeting of my party executive or even the caucus since the storm. I've not engaged the party. So the party has not even given me mandate. I know the party very well, and they will tell me what to do. So I am going on based on my last 12 years as a leader of the party. But I'm not. So I have not mobilized my party. You know, people have mobilized themselves to help restore the country. Nobody had to call them. So it's not about politicking and so forth. You know, and I think it's good for the country. At the end of the day, everybody benefits. You know, instead of spending time fighting each other and cursing each other and burning the country down, you can work together towards restoring the hope and aspirations of the entire citizens of the country.
So you're satisfied with the role of the opposition or the part that they've played thus far?
I'm satisfied with the role everybody has played thus far. Everybody in the country has responded. People have worked, I mean, exceptionally well in responding. You know, and I think the overall response by the state has been exceptional. Everybody has come forward to do their part beyond the call of duty. So across the country, I mean, you go across the country, I mean, people have been exceptional, you know, in the efforts. So there is an advisory, the National Reconstruction Advisory Committee, which is made up of the cabinet and the 21 elected members of parliament, and all have been given certain responsibilities. And as I said, all have been given the tools of trade, as one of my colleagues would normally say, and the resources to carry their functions to the best of their abilities.
But people are saying, as you mentioned, that you have 2 lawyers on board. What is the significance?
Which lawyers are on board?
You have Mr. Lawrence and Mr. Johnson.
You're complicating the national.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Johnson is on board not necessarily as a lawyer. Mr. Johnson was part of the post-David reconstruction, so he's bringing to bear that level of knowledge. He's maybe one of the foremost authorities on the public service in the country, and he has, in my mind, tremendous talent and skills, which I believe the state can still make use of. So it's not the issue of having 2 lawyers. Mr. Alec Lawrence is one of the brightest individuals I have met anywhere in the world. And you know, and not only on matters of law, but on a number of other issues. There's some. What we have to understand too is that the committee, the task force. I know a lot of people felt that that person was not on, or that competence is not on. The point is, you have to determine how large the task force can be. What the task force has been mandated to do also is to engage individuals. So if there's an issue, it will be engaging sectors, interest groups, organizations, NGOs, civil society. So it will be consulting virtually all of us in the country in drafting this framework for the reconstruction of the country. So yes, somebody say, well, you need that person and that person that skill and this person with that skill. But you cannot have everybody on the task force, and the task force, as I said, is mandated to draw on the skills of everybody. So,
yeah, Prime Minister, this will be my final question to you. If you were to advise Lime and the NCCU, they will be staging major events October, November. What would you want to say to these organizations?
Well, I am sure they have more qualified advisors than myself, so I will not delve to advise them. I mean, they will, you know, I'm not there to impose the will of the state or the thinking of the state on anybody. As the Prime Minister and the Chairman of the Cabinet, I can only take action which I have authority to take. At the end of the day, everybody has a different matter to anybody on the hosting or non-hosting of any event and so forth. All I will say is that the country needs a lot of money, and if you have extra, then we would certainly welcome it. You know, okay. But I want to thank all of you, and you know the media. You've been at your best. I find you are at your best, and the diligence of the media houses and so forth. And the point is, it's important for us to report things as we hear it. And I think by and large you've been doing that. And I want to commend you for this and so on. And let me welcome tonight, because it's first time Matt Peltier, who was once the dean of the media houses until he became a talk show host, and Caleb John Baptist, who is one of the most controversial journalists the country has seen in a long time. So he's though sometimes he's breaking news, sometimes it's far from anything the truth. He's usually wrapped in gossip and innuendo. But we all have to work together, different views. And I want to thank you, and of course thank the Dominican citizen. If anything you want to take home what Mr. Pascal said to you tonight. Let's be mindful of the environment. There's a flood warning. Let us be cautious. There's no time to go liming anywhere. Be mindful if you live in places prone to flooding. You should leave and be safer ground. There's no need to play Spider-Man. There's no need to play Superman and whatever other Ninja Man. What else they have these days and so on. Let us be safe. Rather be safe than sorry. Thank you. Good night to you.
Having a check a couple years ago.